I mean, Joe raised the issue, look, that's a trick. That's a trick.
Yeah, because what do you do if you mix three things together, or
okay.
a different
Okay,
problem?
if the problem went beyond and you were mixing three things together, that's a different sort of situation, isn't it? That would create a even greater. I mean, I guess you could mix two together.
Do two and then one.
And then that
And
the
the
result would
result
do
is one.
sort of a second layer mixture problem.
But how would you know the intermediate percentage that you would do?
I don't know, I'm just thinking there's
If
gotta
you
be
kept
a
track
way
of
to
the
do it,
liter,
yeah.
of the amount and the concentration of each.
Probably could.
Well, even if you didn't do it as a mixture problem, I mean, this was awesome. Knowledge to the kids like that.
Let's think about that a minute, and then we'll get back to Joe's question, because I think, we all know teaching tricks is effective if there's a balance of understanding that supports that measure. What sorts of things did this teacher use to connect what she wanted to teach to the students' prior knowledge?
Something as basic as when she did the percents, how the 25% is less than the 70% and the 40s in the middle.
Yes.
I have kids who wouldn't
Yes.
necessarily know
Yes.
that. They would think since it's the last one made, that might be the one
Even
that
bigger.
should be at the end.
Absolutely, absolutely. And
So
that's what
that-
I call the qualitative part of
Mhm.
problem solving. Before you ever start messing with the numbers, get in your mind a concept of what where you expect things to go with that. Anything else?
Just food down in water and mixing it.
That was good.
Did
That's
that
an
bother you?
experience that kids might have.
Oh,
Of just mixing things. that
Making
are
Right,
making
nice
lemonade.
water,
Yeah,
right,
you know,
nice
Kool-Aid.
water.
Right,
Yeah.
they might have seen situations where color was really concentrated and then
Versus saline.
Yeah, right, saline versus salt. I think I'd stick with the word salt all the way
Yeah.
through and
Mhm.
avoid that issue.
Now, would you guys do it with the students mixing their own? Giving them their own water and their.
She did not, did she?
No, she didn't.
She did not, and I think that's a good question.
I wouldn't do it with a liquid. I would have to, if I did it, I'd have to do it with just the mess. If spill, and I could be the one spilling.
Anyone can spill, yes. So
Right.
there are practical things we want to think
Right.
about in terms of that. But I can tell you, there are kids out there who haven't mixed
Right.
and who haven't mixed anything and need that experience.
And I would almost do the dropping of the color
Yes.
dye into it, like to show, so here this has 1 and this has 7.
Drops.
Maybe, I don't
Mhm.
know. Right.
To quantify it,
She's pretty
to
awesome.
quantify the concentration.
Were you talking about prior knowledge or something?
Yeah, I asked about prior
The
knowledge.
seesaw, she related it to her.
Most kids can relate to the seesaw and the idea
which is
that.
interesting, because most parks don't have that.
Happen anymore.
Isn't that, well,
They don't have them, they're too dangerous.
liability issues?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Really?
So,
You know, I hadn't thought of that.
I don't
Yeah.
know if kids have
They have
this,
small,
so
they have
that-
little kitty ones,
But
but
it's
the
not
kids
the
go on it,
yeah,
so.
And
You-
the dinosaurs though.
You might have to rig up, some kind of a fulcrum
Yeah.
and,
If you
Small.
wanna use that example, cause I actually didn't know, I don't know if I just didn't do seesaws as a kid. Her first example made sense to me. When she said, I took her on her word that you move the board to keep it balanced.
yeah.
I just thought you added
A big
another
person sits closer to the middle of the
Okay.
thing and a little person further out there so that they can actually be balanced. So what about that idea of weight times distance from the fulcrum on one side equaling weight times distance from the fulcrum on the other side? Is that something we could use with kids? As
Well, it's physics.
as a prior knowledge, it is physical, isn't it? It is physics, a bit of prior knowledge to build this on.
And I think-
Even though the mixture problem didn't have anything to do with,
Distance.
distance, or even weights. I mean, she did talk about the volume of one mixture with another mixture.
Yeah, I feel I'm gonna go with Mary in the sense that like, some of my students would go, but liters isn't distance.
Say that
Sorry,
again, please.
liters isn't weight.
Yeah.
It's more, you know, it's well.
We know.
It's kind of
We
weight,
know
but
this
then,
can
like,
fall
percentage
apart.
isn't a distance.
Right.
So it's like, why am I using percentage as a distance
Mhm.
when it's not even a distance, you know, a measurement? They would get confused with that, because they literally look for a distance. What my problem is, this mixture is like 5 miles away.
All of a sudden, I noticed when she put the, what was it, the 15 and the 30, she did not write percents.
Yeah.
This was well thought out, she didn't write that, and I think perhaps that would make that leap, maybe avoid it.
50% of the distance, 30%.
I think the visual on the seesaw, you could see that, you know, if you want to talk about distance from the center to the edge, they're only talking about a part of it, a percent of it, versus this percentage being bigger, so they, I think they would tie the
It
two
almost make
together.
a model
Right.
that would match with this,
Mhm.
to make that connection, make that bridge.
So Joe's saying, I think my kids would be bogged down by that, and I think what Amanda's saying is maybe they could make that leap, make that connection. Why do you think I want us to look at this?
Trying to streamline their prior knowledge to help them as a tool to problem solving and to the solution. So even if they couldn't get to the very end, they could at least get to the beginning. Oh, that makes sense, and they start thinking, well, what else can I do, to get them further along. They might get an extra boost, but then they don't feel bad about getting that extra boost at the end, because now, oh, it makes sense, and I can do this on my own now.
Oh, well, they figured the problem out before they even introduced the, they realized they had to add double one amount compared to the other amount in order to get to the middle 40% solution.
Yeah, for that one case, but like
Yes.
she said, not all numbers are nice.
Mhm.
So by doing that process, like the kids could make that leap and generalize the
Uh-huh.
pattern and then apply it to something else that isn't as nice.
Right.
And I think traditionally when it was taught, it was a 1-day lesson that you just teach them how to set up the equations and solve.
Yeah.
Where now here's that concept piece that is so critical to
And what is the
Common Core.
concept piece?
Well, there's a lot of concepts going on. I think that just understanding that whatever you have left is in between the two.
Okay.
That's
That's
a huge
certainly
idea.
a concept, yes. What other concepts?
It's getting into it, yeah.
In what way?
Well, I don't know, that's what I'm trying to figure out. I feel like that, some of this basic stuff, I feel like I've never really.
We haven't, a lot of it, we haven't visited deeply, have we? Some of these basic things.
Because I think one of the key words I keep hearing now from fractions is equivalency.
Yes.
And it's very interesting.
You're just gonna have to tell us.
Okay.
That's what I'm doing for
I have in mind the reason I picked this is because I like that idea of weight on one side times distance from the fulcrum is equal to weight on the other side times distance from the fulcrum. And just for your information, I don't want to put you to sleep, PJ did a lot of work on the seesaw problem many years ago. And that is a concept that's attainable to quite young children. If the less I weigh, the further out I have to sit on that seesaw to balance it. And it may well be because
So they're looking.
older kids had those experiences.
So they're looking for the leap of weight, so the more concentrated correlates
Yes.
with more weight.
Yes, the more
Okay.
concentrated correlates with more weight, and the greater distance correlates with the larger amount to be added in. And I sort of view these two situations as having the same underlying structure. Maybe that's a stretch. That is what I had in mind when I selected this for you, that they have the same underlying structure, and that structure can carry kids a long way. Once it's in place, if you get it in place in one area, you can use it for something else you want to teach. Yes. You know what else it is? It's having a good sense of equality. what that equal sign and parallel, thinking of the equal sign in parallel with the fulcrum is an interesting sort of concept. And the idea of equality not meaning necessarily just give the answer, but equality meaning this side truly balances that side. That concept of
because they're always looking for the different being in the middle.
Sure, yes. That idea, the idea of equality can support a lot. So what I want from you, and this is just, right, and I'm teasing now, only partially. I want someone to do this as an action research project. How subtle is that?
No pressure.
How subtle,
I could actually work it into my curriculum,
Well,
because I do have a group
no,
that
I don't
need
want
to-
anyone to commit to anything today, but if you were inclined to want to explore that, I would love to hear how that goes. Yeah, just a thought. Any other thoughts or comments on this? Mary, you want to add anything? Oh, either Mary. I'm sorry.
I guess I can remember seesaws, and I can remember figuring out that the fact was I would have to sit further down, like if we had two people on the other side of the seesaw to come over, and I would be further at the other end. But yeah, I remember that, but that's
It's
right,
one of
we
the
don't.
earliest inverse relationships that kids can experience, that the heavier the person is, the shorter the distance.
Distance has to be.
Yeah, it has to be from the
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you my handout of this, and really, and I do have a few more of these if you want. I apologize.
Are we allowed to eat them?
You're allowed to eat them, yes. Only touched by my hands. I apologize, my handout is just notes. If you'd like the PowerPoint, I'd be happy to send it, but
Literally have the whole thing.
otherwise.
Okay.
You
But
guys
you can
want-
also
I mean,
move your fulcrum.
I literally got double.
That's what I thought, I could have sworn when I was okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, those are my favorites too.
You can turn it off, sure.
Roll call.